What's up guys, Houndish here, and today I wanted to jump in and talk about Season of the Lost. Generally, I wanted to give some of my thoughts on the season so far, and why I think it's one of the absolute strongest seasons of content that we've had separate to expansions in Destiny 2. There are still no doubt plenty of things which players want to see Bungie do better. Of course, PvP is a big one, both in the short term and the big picture, and then there are those more immediate changes which we wish Bungie would implement. But looking at how the game has developed over time, I think there's a lot that Bungie have improved on significantly in the last year or so, and personally, Season of the Lost has me more excited to play Destiny right now than I have been since Beyond Light. So I want to share my thoughts on why I think Bungie are on a pretty good path at the moment, but as always, let us know what your thoughts are down below as well. But looking at the launch for the season, it feels like Bungie definitely had a little bit more focus on quality of life going into Season 15. We got some pretty cool updates to older content, the update to the Prophecy Dungeon with Trials of the Nine weapons, Xur got a surprise change, and of course it doesn't change the world, sure, but it makes things a little bit more interesting. And then we had updates adding more Legend and Master Lost sectors to the game. Importantly, Trials had its rework, and at least at the start of the season, I think it's been a broadly fun experience for a lot of players. It's far more rewarding, created more incentives for solo players and non-flawless reputation gains. Additionally though, Bungie's soft launch of anti-cheat with BattleEye has been pretty successful, and while things aren't absolutely perfect on that front, I think it's kind of come together to make for a more attractive and enjoyable ecosystem on the most part. And then Bungie also spent more energy adjusting and reworking exotics and subclass trees going into Season 15, which alongside some of the new stuff, which is broadly pretty good as well, it's created a lot of new possibilities in this sandbox and a spectrum of things to kind of play around with. We've got crossplay now, which I think is a pretty popular feature overall, and then we've had additional surprises like the Deadeye seal, and a fairly impressive addition to the weapon pool in the game across vendors, playlists, and activities. So looking at those kinds of things, for a season drop, I'd say the last couple of seasons have done a better job at expanding loot pools in an exciting way. And I think before we even get onto the content, that's given the season a fairly good foundation of updates to make existing stuff more interesting for a while. But I totally appreciate, yes, there have still been a number of bugs and issues which have taken a while to fix. Got things like missing Tracing the Stars quests, or the couple of weeks that we had to wait for the Deadeye fix, but of course that's also the nature of video games and development. And in the last couple of seasons of Destiny, we have had 2 or 3 relatively fast patches after the launches, with a lot of fixes and responses to issues, so it feels like that cadence of iterating on the game has gotten better as well. Of course it is just as well that this seems to be a fairly decent season so far, and that we've had quality of life changes, because it is going to be a 6-month season altogether, so no doubt we're also going to see some drier spells. But my hope is that alongside the December content update and the 30th anniversary pack, we'll continue to see sandbox tuning and quality of life adjustments, and I think Bungie have got a few things already planned. And when you contrast this against some of the seasons that have been fairly light on quality of life adjustments, of course didn't necessarily include any PvP content, unlike what we've seen this season with Trials, and some of the sandbox stuff that Bungie have been doing. Overall, I think it's been pretty positive this season, but give us your thoughts down below. In terms of new content though, I've been generally pretty impressed and enjoyed a lot of the new stuff that we've had for Season 15. There is initially Astral Alignment, and it's still within the scope of a seasonal activity, but I think it kind of does a better job of being replayable than some of the other activities that we've had. Sometimes I do feel like Bungie kind of overused the seasonal activities with some of the quests, you know. For the past few seasons we've had the kind of weekly quest system, and it tends to always send us back into the activity before we can progress with the kind of new narrative stuff. But so far this season, and with Astral Alignment in general with the gameplay loop, I think it's been okay. However, I feel like the real quality content this season, especially for PvE folks and folks who are interested in the story, Shattered Realm is pretty epic. It has that kind of dungeon feel in terms of mystery and the secrets that we can find. There are plenty of callbacks to sort of Dreadnought-esque content, and I think a collision of different elements from a lot of Destiny's best content. Stuff that we saw in The Taken King, but of course it's also more Dreaming City stuff, so there's plenty of nostalgia there, but I think Bungie have done a really good job with the piece of content, and the Shattered Realms almost feel like new destinations because we're running them over and over again, but discovering more things every time that we do it. And it sort of gives us this sense of agency, but also draws us back in because we know there's more to discover in there, right? There's that link to Aegis Scepter as well, and we're going to use the weapon to discover more of the realms, which on top of it being a pretty good trace rifle, kind of further invests it into the narrative for the season. So personally, I have enjoyed the activity content this season, and I think also the upgrade system seems more investable as well somehow, especially Wayfinder's compass bonuses that help us find more secrets in Shattered Realm. It kind of makes the upgrades more exciting and they feel less grindy than in past seasons as well, unless it's just that I'm personally having more fun with them, I'm not sure. Either way, let us know what you guys think of the activity content this season down below. We've spoken a little bit about Sandbox, and on the front of exotic weapons this season, we just touched on Aegis Scepter. I'm looking forward to using that with the Catalyst soon, and it's a pretty fun weapon, especially with some of the stasis builds that you can rock. Super energy gains with Whisper of Bonds are absolutely insane. So that's pretty fun, but also, I think Lorenz Driver is a really good weapon as well. And with so many exotics updated, we've had some pretty ridiculous builds, sometimes unintentional stuff, but on the PvE side, it makes the Sandbox a pretty fun place right now. And I think coupled with fun content to play, gear really kind of feels meaningful in a bunch of ways at the moment, which is good. On the PvP side, I think Sandbox has seen some good adjustments, just not a tremendous amount of them. And of course, the good thing for PvP at the moment, overwhelmingly this season, has been the change to Trials of Osiris. Of course, there are a lot of elements to that Trials ecosystem, how many people are playing it, the kinds of players that are jumping into it and investing in it. The loot system changes, I think, especially looking at how Trials was performing before, are improving that experience quite a bit, as well as the matchmaking changes. Of course, how that will fare over time is something that we'll have to watch. There is always kind of a honeymoon period, right, where you've got a lot of players diving in, and that really mixes up how the playlist is feeling. So we'll see how it does, but I've personally had quite a bit of fun with it. Bungie have made their first set of changes to matchmaking with the flawless player pool, and there have been mixed opinions about this. But it's essentially a system that has players who have already gone flawless in a given week actually match other flawless players for the rest of the week. Which in theory is fair enough, right? But I do see both sides of the conversation. One of my least favorite things about that is that if I go flawless on a Friday or a Saturday and decide to play with one of my other friends on a Sunday, it's frustrating that my matchmaking could affect their potential to go flawless. And so there are definitely some flaws with the matchmaking systems that Bungie are playing around with, but I'd anticipate that they'll continue to kind of tune them and try different things out. So hopefully, we'll continue to see that adjusted. Of course, having a lot of people actually jumping into Trials, keeping that population pretty high is very important. So as always, we'll have to watch Trials over the coming weeks and see how it plays out. But beyond Trials, we know that it's going to be quite a long time until we see more PvP updates on a regular basis. And I think that's been a clear shortfall for Bungie over the past couple of years. Trials is enough of a distraction right now, but seasonally, going into year 5, the Crucible has to get more updates, rewards, maps, modes, and general attention in order to continue to engage players. And if they can give a portion of their attention each season, as we've seen with Trials this season, I think it will be a solid start. And they have started to outline some changes they're going to make. It's just that it's going to be a bit of a long way down the road. So I totally get how PvP focused players are kind of missing getting those valuable updates to Crucible. And there are a lot of things that Bungie are looking at for Witch Queen which are going to be really positive for the game as well, both in terms of a content drop, but a consistent rollout of content in year 5. You know, they're talking about raids they're going to be dropping. We're going to get a couple of dungeons in year 5. And then right now for this season, there is a pretty strong narrative tied to Witch Queen, and it's a fun trajectory for us to look at. We're at a point where, in the story, there are so many involved characters in the universe. It is a big plus that the Queen is back this season. Of course, she's very popular, but also from a narrative standpoint, we're seeing some huge things play out, leading to an expansion. And we're interacting with Savathun this season as well, which is really cool. And I think for fans of the story of Destiny, the content just seems to be getting better over time. Bungie have also given us that deeper lore, like the stories around Aegis Scepter. There are these kind of undercurrents and backstories all over the place in the story right now. And so I have really enjoyed the launch for Season 15. Of course, it's very early on in the season, and it is an extended season. But I think we've had a pretty good look at the upfront content this time around. So what do you guys think? How are you enjoying the seasonal activities, and how do you think this season stands up versus other content we've had so far in D2? If you have any thoughts on Season of the Lost, be sure to give them down below. And next we'll be looking to Witch Queen, of course, in a few months' time. So if you want to stay up to date with all of the news regarding Destiny 2, be sure to get subscribed to the channel. Otherwise, if you guys have enjoyed the video, a rating down below really does help us out as well. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And for now, whatever you get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.